What's a good song? What's a good song? Ugh, I'm barely awake. Softly, deftly, music shall caress you. Hear it, feel it, secretly possess you. Open up your mind, let your fantasies unwind. Let the music take you where no one can find, and help me make the music of the night. Let your soul take a journey to a strange new world. Leave those thoughts of the world you knew before. That's hard to do. Only then can you belong to me. Hello again, Internet. It's I, StarScream, the ruler of the galaxy, and I'm back again. I'm back by popular demand, or perhaps I'm back by Wade's demand. So Wade Philpott on the Facebook, he conjured up some questions. Some of them are good, some of them are really, really terrible. And I gotta tell you, Wade, you know, if you ask me a question and it's just not very productive and it's not very healthy and it's not very engaging, I just might not answer your questions, Wade. I'm not your slave. So Wade had a question poll, and the top question in the poll was the question, what is your take on the whole Blitzscream thing? What really happened behind the scenes? So again, people like to call me Blitzscream, Blitzwing, Blitz something. It's a blitz, a ballroom blitz. So you want to know what happened behind the scenes? Do you really want to know? Because I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you what happened behind the scenes. So way back at the end of the 70s and the early 80s, there was a Japanese company, maybe more than one Japanese company, and they had a toy line or two that were mildly successful in Japan. And much like most things that America can't design themselves, they take it from other countries. So you'll see this with like the Avro Aero company in Canada that was building the first supersonic jet. And the Americans back in the 50s, they couldn't build a supersonic jet, so they just collected all the Canadian scientists and told the Prime Minister to shut the company down. And they found there was some German scientist that could build a rocket ship, some Werner von Braun or whatever, and so they created Operation Paperclip and brought them over to America and built them some rockets. And there's a big debacle about whether or not Stanley Kubrick helped them film the moon landing, which is, you know, I'm sure they did film the moon landing in a Stanley Kubrick lot. It's just a matter of whether or not they did that in advance, just in case they needed the camera equipment that was broken down, and so they needed to broadcast something. You know, they needed to do something in advance to make sure that when Walter Cronkite was on TV saying, here they go, landing on the moon, that they had something to project on the TV. You know, it's not a big conspiracy. So back in the late 70s, early 80s, there was this Japanese company, and the Americans didn't buy them out right away. They took their time. They got them to create an animated show called Transformers. And maybe they figured that would make them some money. And it was successful for a while, and they started producing toys all over America, and it was making a lot of money. And the Americans wanted to keep it for themselves, so they canceled the American show. They allowed the Japanese companies to go bankrupt, and right when they were on the verge of bankruptcy, they bought up the toy lines, and then they had the rights to Transformers. And so what did they do with Transformers? Wow, they put out a show called Beast Wars. And then they put out a show called Armada and a show called Cybertron, and they were all crap. They were total crap. Everything was crap from then on, and Hasbro didn't care about storytelling, and they haven't cared about storytelling ever since. So then they get this idea in their head somewhere in the 2000s that they could make a live-action Transformers movie, right? All the special effects in the world. So you know what happened? And this is somewhat speculation, but I'm going to tell you what happened. So they called up Spielberg on the phone, and they said, "Hey, Spielberg, can you make us a Transformers movie? You're really great at making movies." And Spielberg, you know, he's like, "Well, I better get back to you on that one. No problem. I'll get back to you." So Spielberg doesn't know anything about Transformers, doesn't know a goddamn thing about Transformers. So he calls up, well, he probably talked to his kid. You know, Spielberg has a son, like Spielberg Jr. or whoever his name is. And his kid was probably like, "Yeah, Dad, you got to make a Transformers movie. Transformers is awesome. It's got Optimus Prime, and it's got all these transforming robots in it, and it's really awesome. You got to do it. You got to do it." And so Spielberg still had no clue what Transformers was. He had no idea at all. Didn't want to admit this. So he called up his friend Michael Bay. And just so that you know, everyone who's ever been greenlit by Spielberg has been someone who just licked the underbelly of Spielberg, who was just like worshiping him like a god. You know, and in some cases they're good movie makers, like in the case of Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis, who did Back to the Future and some movies like that. You know, those guys are really good. They're good directors. They're good and very capable of what they're doing. And in the case of Michael Bay, not so much. So Spielberg calls up Michael Bay and he says, "Hey, Michael Bay, what do you think about this Transformers thing? My kid says it's really great." And Michael Bay was like, "I love you, Spielberg. I'll do anything for you. You're so amazing. I'll do this Transformers movie. No problem, no problem. Anything you say, Spielberg. I love you. I want to have your babies." And so Spielberg was like, "Fine, fine, fine. Just do it. Just, you know, talk to the Hasbro people. They'll tell you what it is." So Michael Bay had no clue. He did a tour of the Hasbro facility. They showed him some plastic toys. They got him in contact with some internet trolls who were like, "I like to collect toys." And Michael Bay was like, "Shut up." And so Michael Bay put out some really, really, really terrible movies. Now, Michael Bay had already been vetted in Hollywood for making thug life movies. This is this formula, right, where you have a movie like Never Back Down in 2012, right? I'm getting my timeline screwed up, but I like the formula. So it works like this: "Never back down, yo." That's a thug life movie, right? And then you add cars to it, and you get Fast and Furious, which is thug life with cars in it, right? And then you get Michael Bay's Transformers, which is basically mentally retarded cars. So the thug life thing kind of skipped a beat, and we just got retarded cars. So anyway, so Michael Bay put out some movies, and they kept making money, and Hasbro did not care about storytelling. They didn't care about continuity. They didn't care about anything except making money. And so they kept putting the movies out, even though they were crap. And people kept watching them because people are gullible and stupid, and they keep watching this stuff. They keep paying money for crap. So Michael Bay eventually just got tired. He, you know, went off to bang some hookers and disappeared. And so this guy, Travis Knight, comes along. Travis Knight, you know, he's been paying attention to the internet a little bit. Or somebody was. You know, they all have media bots, little pod bots on the internet that tell them what's going on. And so Travis Knight was paying attention to the internet. And what he found out was that actually there's all these people out there who are really angry and they hate the Michael Bay movies, right? So Travis Knight, he does these like promotional videos where, you know, he didn't actually know anything about Transformers either. But, you know, he comes on the TV and he says, "This time it's going to be great. This time it's going to be like G1. All the way, yo." Right? And it wasn't. It's just, you know, another video game bonanza. They just forgot to put the video game kill points at the top of the screen, you know? It's like bumblebees just jumping around. And they forgot to put all the kill points at the top of the screen so that all the yuppie larvae can play their video games and do their pharma drugs. So anyways, they knew that Michael Bay had already done some stuff with this work, and they were going to tie it in because why not? Even though they know that nobody liked the Michael Bay movies, we might as well tie them in. And so they'd already shown that StarScream is like over here, and he shows up later, and he looks like a giant metal taco monkey. And so he had to put some kind of a flying jet thing with a little bit of red in it and make it look scary. And so he said, like, well, what kind of jet haven't we used yet? What about Thundercracker? No, he's never heard of Thundercracker. So he's like, let's put Blitzwing in there. So Blitzwing shows up, and everybody sees it in the trailer, and they're like, that must be StarScream. That must be StarScream. And all the yuppie larvae are like, yeah, we're gonna have our video game, and it's gonna have a G1 StarScream in it. But it wasn't a G1 StarScream. It was just an excuse to make another movie and put asses in seats and sell you some propaganda where every girl in America has to be told that she'll be better off with a black boyfriend and bring in the refugees. And we're just gonna get rid of all the white people. We're done with the white people now. So the propaganda plays in the theaters, and millions of people go and they see it, and they buy their nachos, and they shove the squeeze bottle cheese in their face, and they're like, yeah, it's a G1 Transformers movie, except it's kind of like the Michael Bay movie, and there's like, it kind of ties into Michael Bay, and we don't like Michael Bay. So that's what happened. That's what went on behind the scenes, and we still haven't heard back from Spielberg because he didn't want to admit that he had anything to do with seeding the roots of this disaster. I could really blame a lot of things on Spielberg. I don't think he actually directed very much. I think maybe he directed, E.T. and Jaws and Goonies, but he didn't direct Indiana Jones. George Lucas was being sued by everybody in Hollywood, so he didn't want to put his name on a movie and get sued again. So he called up his old American Zoetrope friend, I'd say his old college friend, but they went to a different college. So he calls up Spielberg and he's like, hey, you want to come and do my movie over here? That's what happened. And Spielberg's been putting his name on movies ever since, and he finds directors that have no potential and no money, or a lot of potential, but still, no money, and they beg for Spielberg's acceptance, and they're like, we love you, Spielberg. Anyways. I don't particularly love Spielberg. I just wanted to put that out there. That's why my movies never get made. Anyways, next question. So there was another question, and the question was, what are your thoughts on Cobra Commander? Okay, hold on. I'm really a baritone bass, so it's kind of hard for me to do this, but it's like, Cobra Commander. I can't see. It's hard for me to do, but it's like, the Cobra Commander. Okay, he's a really straightforward villain. He's just like steel-faced, cold, simple. Take over the Joe base and burn it down. He's a real simple, flat, villain, and that doesn't normally work in a lot of stories, but I think for Cobra Commander, nobody ever questions it, and then the Joes show up and they're like, go, Joe! Cobra Commander! It's hard for me to do. It really strains my voice. I'm going to have to drink some water after I do that. Cobra Commander! It's hard to do, I mean, some people can do it better, but I'm not very good. But, I appreciate a lot of voice actors from back in the day. Everybody had the right spirit, the right frame of mind back in that era, Everybody had the right intentions that was working on these shows, except for Hasbro. They had just toys in mind, and people are still buying the toys. So Hasbro isn't learning anything. Anyways, take over the Joe base. Burn it to the ground. So, I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. So, third question, and this is from Wade again. And see, Wade, you're asking me these questions, like, what's going on? So, Wade says, what's your current gender status? In Prime, you had heels, and in Cyberverse, you sported a tiara. Okay, Wade, listen. Okay, currently there's an agenda to push sexual confusion and gender transitioning on young kids, and I mean like really young kids. They are doing a psyop to try and confuse kids, and at the same time they're censoring the internet and they're flooding us with the third world. And it's really, really scary, and people need to wake up to this. People are going to need to start homeschooling their kids and teaching them that Billy doesn't have two daddies. Because usually when Billy has two daddies, it means he was adopted, and they want to teach him how to be something that Billy doesn't want to be. Or they didn't bother asking Billy before they came to the adoption center. Nobody ever talks about that. They talk about gay marriage, but they never talk about gay adoption. It's like, what's the results here? Anyways, there's quite a push to confuse children, and it's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. Hopefully that answers your question, and hopefully Transformers in the future will not be that terrible. I mean, they're ruining Masters of the Universe right now, and I'm really scared about that. I don't want them to ruin Masters of the Universe. They need to talk to me. I have the storyboards. I can tell you how to do the story properly. Anyways, I don't know. I'm tired. I should go to bed. Hopefully that answers your questions, Internet. I'm sure it doesn't. Cobra Commander! I can't do that again. Cobra Commander! I keep trying, but I really should be down here. Lo, 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 lo. See, and if I go up high, I can kind of hit my treble clef thing, but it's kind of hard to do that. And then twist the voice around. You have to be like an alto soprano to do that. Cobra Commander! I can't do it. StarScream, ruler of the galaxy. Somebody should overdub me. All right. So what else have I got? I don't know what else I got. But you're the internet, and feel free to ask me some questions, and I will be StarScream, and I will answer your questions. You can ask me something other than Transformers-related questions, and I will tell you the answer, and I might teach you something. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, farewell, and so long. Ad Wiedersehen, adieu. To you, and you, and you, and you. 9. It is number 9. Goodbye.